I'm going to talk to you from, I guess, from a planning perspective and some thoughts and approaches and ideas that have helped me recently. The first thing I wanted to do is play you a clip from a really classic film. Are you able to play this for me? What Women Want. It's a Mel Gibson. It just made me laugh. Lots of things. She hasn't really done it by herself, but work with her. But I guess the context is Mel Gibson, in case you didn't know, is working in an ad agency. And a female creative director comes in, and it causes shockwaves through BBD&O or whatever they call the agency. But it just struck me that even though it is a terrible film, it's a woman's world. You know, you can get into their pants, but how can you get into their mind? And I think the planner is all about how do you get into people's minds. So I tried to think about numbers because that's what planners do. You know, all sorts of things. You would have had this, higher tax earners, women switching brands because they supported causes they cared about. 92% of women passed along information about deals or finds to others online. 3% of creative directors are women, which is shocking. There is the 3% conference. I know in the States it seems to have been having potentially a bigger effect than it's had here. And I'll tweet this out later, but I just think it's, the numbers speak a lot, because I think as we start to think about social ideas as opposed to social media ideas, and as people start to talk about shares and comments and engagement, I think it's really interesting that when you talk to a lot of the social platforms, it's the women who are driving the growth on this. So actually, if you're looking to design a campaign that genuinely gets shared, gets spoken, hits nerves, we are all going to have to understand what women care enough to share about. So I thought that was certainly interesting. The IPA asked me to talk about a campaign that I really liked, and I think this was interesting. So these were all images I get on Getty. I typed in working mother, career mother, and these were the things that came up. And this is my little one who's called Eugene. And I don't work on Fridays, but obviously sometimes life merges together. And I think the reality of working mums is you can see some alcohol, and you can see a computer, and you can see my child who probably knows how to Google now. But it just made me laugh. One of the planners took it. I was in a client meeting upstairs who didn't know that I had a son downstairs, and we thought we'd all hidden it. And then the very funny thing was Eugene and I left to go and have fish and chips for lunch, and we met the clients who were actually sitting in a pub opposite talking about the meeting, and they thought it was brilliant. They loved the fact that actually I had a son. And I suddenly thought, isn't it funny that we sort of hid the fact that I was hiding my child downstairs? Anyway, that is more of the reality with lots of red wine. You may well have seen this. This was from Sheryl Sandberg. I actually am a big fan of Lean In. I think Lean In is great, and I think men should do it and women should do it, and how are you going to get pay rises if you don't lean into it, and all sorts of other things, but that's a separate conversation. But I like what they did, which was, if you don't see it, how can you be it? And I thought that was a really smart insight, which is, it's almost like the sort of, the visual culture spam that we've got of women is so wrong that actually they're on a mission to create a whole new set of images. And I think the campaign around Repicture Women is really smart, and I like it. And I guess I know it's not a traditional advertising campaign, but again, I think what we see around us, we are what we see, and I think it's really important. And then I guess just very quickly, I did want to show an ad that I really liked, and I tear up, even though I have 2 boys. So if I tear up at the end of it, I apologise, but anyway, I do love this. And I'm sure you've seen it, but it's still brilliant. So I think it's great, and I'm obviously a bit cheesy, but I think it's a great insight, and I like words a lot, and how words get meaning, and like a girl, and I love the thought of talking to, sort of, it must be about sort of 5, and actually like a girl is just running like them and doing it really fast. I think it's one of those things where I go, I wish I was being the planner on that. So again, I was asked to give a sort of what takeout would you have from this? And I guess from a planning perspective, I'm sure you'll hear this from everybody, but it's just to push hard beyond the obvious. And I think it's easy to get to easy places quickly, but easy doesn't take you to great work, and easy isn't going to take you to work that gets shared. And I think increasingly that's a metric that all of us are looking at. And I think I said this in the setup, but the reality of marketing to women is always more complicated, is always more nuanced, but actually it's more interesting. And those interests and the tension points, great creative is based out of tension points where you can rub up against something, and that's where the interesting work happens. So that's my planning perspective.